Citizenship is up for sale, ladies and gentlemen. All you have to do is pay $5 million or 44 crore rupees to Donald Trump. While the U.S. is sending back the illegal immigrants, most of whom come from poor backgrounds in search of jobs or a better life, or saving their lives from mafia in their own country, the president has opened the doors for the rich of the world. Trump has launched a gold card that offers American citizenship for a fee of $5 million. Replacing the current EB-5 visa program, the Gold Card program will grant foreigners the privileges of a green card, allowing them to become permanent U.S. residents. Trump's Commerce Secretary said the current EB-5 scheme, which was created in 1990 to help in job creation, is fraud, ridiculous, and nonsense. Listen into what Trump said while launching this card.
Selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we think it's going to be extremely successful.
Now, the introduction of the gold card is expected to have significant implications on Indian applicants of green card as well. Several Indians, remember, are in line waiting for as long as over 2 decades to get a green card. In fact, researchers say this cumulative wait is over 140 years. Often this challenge is referred to as the green card backlog issue. With multiple wealthy individuals across the world having used the EB-5 visa program to get permanent residency, beg your pardon. Now, this new move threatens to take away the wealthy population from countries. It has also led to questions on whether U.S. will bar millionaires who commit financial frauds in their own country and take refuge abroad. So let's try and decode this entire situation for you, this move by Donald Trump, which many are calling extremely transactional and capitalist, what it would lead to and what it reflects of the state of the economy of America. Let's get all of this decoded for you on the show. On the broadcast, I'm joined by Vibhuti Jha, former Republican candidate for New York Assembly, Dov Zakheim, senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies and former U.S. Under Secretary of Defense joins us, and Karthikeya Tanna, New York attorney, joins us. He, in fact, specializes in immigration. Good evening and namaskar to all of you. Dov, let me start with you. How do you see this move by Donald Trump? It seems like he has a soft corner for all the wealthy people, but not so much for the poor.
His logic seems to be we get more rich people coming here. By the way, they could be dual citizens. There's nothing that prevents that from happening. So it's not clear that they would necessarily walk away from their own countries. But he sees this as a revenue source. And I think it's all of a piece with his idea that lower American taxes, raise tariffs, get money in that way. And this is another way to bring in money. I think he was talking about, well, if 1 million people come in, whether, as you pointed out, these could be crooks who made a lot of money, I think that has a lot to do with how the security services in our country will look at it, simply because if somebody has committed something illegal, they could be a danger in our country as well. Trump didn't address that at all. But I think that's the logic behind it, just another revenue source. As for the contrast with getting illegal immigrants out, remember, these aren't people who applied for anything. They just crossed the border. And so, again, from his point of view, whether you agree with it or not is kind of immaterial. I'm just giving you his point of view. From his point of view, these are people who are applying legally. They've got money. They're bringing money into the country. His view is the illegals come in and they actually, if they're using any kind of American benefits, they're taking those benefits without paying for them. That's his logic.
Okay, let me take this across to Vibhuti Jha. Vibhuti Jha, why does a country like America, a country as big as America, need to resort to what smaller countries like, say, perhaps Egypt or Malta or Spain have done in the past? Why do you need the wealthy individuals of different countries coming into your country? You are a big developed country.
Thank you, Shreya. This is very important. We actually dealt with EB-5 cases. We had projects that we funded through EB-5 funding. EB-5 fund program, as it existed, was full of flaws, bureaucratic failures, and ineptness, which led to significant delays in people getting the green card, actual green card. So if you're an investor of $500,000 or $800,000 or $1 million, you wanted the green card instantly. And if you're getting it after 3 days, 3 years, or 2 years, or whatever the waiting time was, it was not helping the cause of 10 jobs created. I think, in my opinion, this is a brilliant program offering. Think about it from this point of view. What is Mr. Trump trying to do? There is an EB-5 program which is not working. As a result of which you want to devise something that you choose who comes in the country, particularly in this era when people are willing to give an arm and a leg to come there. So this particular program opens up to the wealthy, come here and invest, and it is instant green card. So as a result of which, anybody who brings in $5 million, he creates jobs, creates employment, and he's not going to waste his money. Remember one more thing which the previous speaker was talking about, the thugs, goons, and others will bring money. I'm a private banker and I've dealt with this situation in my past life, and even the EB-5 thing. One of the key elements of the entire process was verification of the source of funds. So if you're investing $5 million, even $500,000, or if you're a gas station operator, if you have cash, prove it that it came through legit sources. So there will be no compromise on that. So if you are thinking about people with nefarious links can come in, there is always a leak, but that will be heavily scrutinized. Final point which I wanted to make is that, when you are, at this point in time, US wants to make a decision as to who comes in this country. The need of the country is different today than it was 100 years ago. Give me your poor, give me your suffering, and we will make them up. Today, the time is different. And therefore, this particular program comes in. In my opinion, I would say India must launch this program because India needs Make in India program. Think about how many people would come in. I can tell you, I can bring 10 people who will get $5 million each to come and invest in India and make, products and services in India.
The joke around here, Mr. Jha, going on after this gold card launch is the fact that whichever Indian has 44 crores or $5 million, why would they go to America? They'll just stay back here and have a really good life. But, jokes apart, Mr. Jha, there are several people who are also saying...
Shreya, I would like to address that part.
Okay, go ahead.
Because the first generation Indians, those who are wealthy, they really need not come to America, really need not. But what happens is that by extension of what is known as an opportunity, so if I'm in India, I'm worth X million dollars, I will send my son and daughter here and establish a business link. That is what is important here. You create a business opportunity for your Indian part to have a branch in the US, and you can expand trade and commerce. That's a very important part. We have talked about it a lot. I've personally spoken on this matter. I know something more. This time may not be enough to talk about it, but I'm open to talk about it later at any point in time. Thank you.
So, there are several people who are also calling this America's strategy to have a deterrent, have a filter to whoever's coming in. But I'll come to that point later. I want to bring in Karthikeya Tanna into this conversation. Karthikeya, one of the biggest issues and concerns after this launch is, how professionals, Indian professionals who waited for long for their green card will perhaps face a setback because of this kind of a move by Donald Trump. How do you see that? How do you see this really moving forward? Because you already have several Indians who are waiting for several years for their green card.
Shreya, we don't know the details yet. This was just an announcement, at the Oval Office. So the one thing that I would like to see is whether these green cards under the, so-called gold card, would they be outside the annual quota of green cards that the U.S. Government effectively gives every year? So are they going to be a separate category altogether? If so, then the Indians who are waiting with the visa backlog, they are not rendered any worse off. Their wait stays at it is. If it is clubbed together, with the annual green card quota, or maybe they increase the annual green card quota, we don't know that. So we'll have to wait for the details with regard to that. In a sense, though, while at the surface it might seem that this is a transaction, and I think President Trump was unabashed about it, that yes, this is it's transactional. You come here and you invest money and you get a green card, you get a direct route through green card. Yes, someone spoke about the EB-5 program. Yes, there's issues in that, but effectively even EB-5 was in a sense viewed as green card for sale category. Now, again, whether EB-5 will be removed or replaced, so easily with an executive order, I'm not sure, because the EB-5 is actually pursuant to a law passed by the United States Congress. So I'm not sure if President Trump will be just able to strike it off with an executive order. It might have to go through the legislative process. There might be 6 months to a year of window until which the EB-5 program still continues to stay. Now, in terms of yes, Mr. Jha is right. There will be an investigation. I'm pretty sure there will be an investigation on the source of funds that are coming into the country, because they don't want. I'm sure the U.S. does not want dubious sources of funding coming into the country. Now, from the countries from where the nationals are investing this $5 million, like for example India, they'll have to think about beefing up the security in terms of financial security. Make sure that the financial absconders don't go out of the country and are not able to remit wealth. Number one. Number two, India might also think of, and many other countries might also think of, capital flight restrictions. I mean, in India, we have the liberalized remittance scheme, which only allows a certain amount of transfers every year. Maybe India might beef that up even more now, given that this might be a temptation for a lot of people to invest. Lastly, I want to say one thing, that although it does seem transactional, what I started with, in one way, if you think about it, there are many Indian students or even those on H-1Bs, who have created amazing companies, path-breaking companies in the U.S., and they have earned significant amount of money. But why should they wait for, tens of 20, 30 years in order to get a green card? If they have the $5 million, why shouldn't they be given that opportunity to invest and actually get a green card? So it cuts both ways. Of course, there will be, people who just have a lot of money and want to immigrate. But there could also be people who are just deserving and who have earned a lot of money through their hard work, through their brilliance, establishing companies in the U.S., but who are stuck on visas. So for them, it's a win-win as well. Again, let's wait for the details. I think the details will tell us a lot about, all the issues that I mentioned.
Sure. And, why hate the rich for their hard work? If they worked hard, it's only, fitting for them to actually pay more and settle wherever they want to. But, Dov Zakheim, one of the arguments that is being given against this move is the fact that the U.S. has higher taxes on incomes. And therefore, first of all, not everybody has $5 million or 44 crores in INR. And therefore, only a limited number of people would want to take the decision of paying up and getting American citizenship. The other thing is, when you're going there, you're being taxed higher. Anybody who has that kind of money would want to go to smaller countries which have lower taxes. Why would they want to, shift to the U.S. and pay higher taxes and get their money given to the government?
Well, a couple of things. First, I happen to agree with what both previous speakers said. And let me add to that. India in particular is making all kinds of progress in areas like, say, biotechnology, which our country, the United States, really cares about. So again, let's wait for the details, because I suspect what might happen is they'll tighten up on what the visas for green cards actually get you and who actually gets them. Now, as to your question, let me just put it this way. Where would you rather invest, even if it meant somewhat higher taxes? And remember, Mr. Trump's trying to lower taxes, right? We've got legislation right now that just passed the House of Representatives that's going to lower taxes, not raise them. But where would you rather invest? Why do so many brilliant Indian minds come here, and they're in California, which has the highest taxes in the country? Why do they do that? Because the reward is so much greater than whatever the taxes are. And that's why you can really make a fortune in the United States. There are some countries, to make a small fortune, you have to bring a big one because you're going to lose it. In the United States, you bring a small fortune and you make a big fortune. And so, yes, the taxes may be higher, but the reward is so much greater, which is why everybody wants to come here.
Interesting point you make there. Vibhuti Cha, do you want to come in on this? Especially after this Donald Trump second presidency, a lot of conversation around whether the American dream still exists, whether people across the world are chasing the American dream. Does that perception still exist? Do you want to come in on this? Would everybody want to come to America even in today's day and time?
Yeah.
Could you unmute yourself, Mr. Cha? Yeah.
I did. Sorry. As Doug very correctly said, America is the land of opportunity. So whether all said and done today, if you were to invest $5 million in America and make a fortune and a dream, as the saying goes, you cannot do that in a country I wouldn't want to name, even if the fee was only $500,000. By the way, UK already has a plan called with $5 million kind of a thing, but nobody talks about it because who wants to go to UK today? And I'm saying it with due respect to UK. Having said that, remember one thing very clearly. Immigration is a two-way process. People seek better life, running away from political uncertainties and persecutions, or just in the Indian case, student visas. Students, that's one big category from India that come to study here, for whom we succeeded in getting about 23 student visas for that, because parents could afford to invest. What is important here is that for America to today decide in the year 2025 what kind of people we need. Remember one thing, America is running through a real financial obesity by virtue of which we are $36 trillion in debt, and our debt servicing is crippling us. We cannot afford to go ahead printing notes, the fiat currency that we once enjoyed. Trump recognizes that. So he's trying to find out ways and means where we can get the money in. Now, one thing is certain, even if $5 million, there are not a million people coming in tomorrow. Let's put it very clearly. EB-5 program had a max cap of 10,000 per year. The only difference was that in the 10,000, there was no country cap. The country cap was notional, that it was 7% as usual. But if the country cap is not fulfilled, any country can take over that part. So China was very aggressive in it. You would be surprised to know that out of 10,000 limit, 7,000 to 8,000 used to be Chinese. That became a security risk for America. So there are many dimensions of this issue. But one thing is definitely true. America does offer a dream as yet. As Doug said, and I wholeheartedly agree, that you come here, whether you come with a penny or a million, you have a chance to grow and grow in a multiplier effect. You can put it to that. So I believe that I would be the proponent of the thought, let's take 5 million, ask government of India, I will open my business in Kadapa or Cuddalore and drive business up there. Why not? Think about it from a different perspective.
Chalo, well, I hope the government of India is listening to you, Mr. Jha, and we come up with this kind of an offer as well. But Karthikeya, all throughout the presidential election, before Donald Trump won and came back to the Oval Office, there was a lot of conversation on immigration. And one of the interesting points that was mentioned by both sides, the Democrats and the Republicans, was the reformation of the immigration system. While that's going to take a long time, do you think these are then the shorter routes that the government is taking instead of actually doing genuine reform in the immigration system that desperately needs reform?
Shreya, I think reform, takes a whole long process. It has to go through the legislative process. There's a lot of push and pulls. There's a lot of, back channel talking with the senators and how to make sure that the bills are passed. And it's a long process. In the meantime, Trump's the most talked about initiative of the Trump administration is this Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Whose single purpose is to prevent government wastage and to try to reduce the deficit as much as possible. Now that also, the government is a large elephant. It takes time for this deficit to be plugged even something so insignificant as 5%. So in that regard, Trump or someone in an administration might have realized that, what are we doing? Like, why don't we invite foreign investors to invest and, get currency inflows, from outside, and try to plug this, loophole? What would they need? What incentive would they need in order to invest in the U.S.? We make it so difficult for investors. There's, for example, E2 visas, which are only available to nationals of some countries. They only get 2-year terms. Some only get 6-month terms. Some get 5-year terms, and it's always subject to denial when you want to apply for renewal. So the Trump administration realized, let's cut this layers and layers and hypocrisies. Let's just straight away announce that we have a deficit. And to President Trump's credit, he actually said that in that Oval Office briefing, that we have a deficit of $35 trillion. I mean, he did the math in his mind that 1 million contributes 5 million. This could wipe out the deficit. Now, again, it's not as simple as that, but the intention is very clear. That why are we giving away green cards? Like, for example, diversity visa is one of the green card categories where it's literally a lottery. Nationals of countries who are eligible just apply. All they need is a high school degree. They fill out a 2-page form. It's free. If they get selected in the 50,000, if they get picked, it's a lottery. They can then go on to apply for a green card. Now, that makes no sense. I mean, maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, it might have made sense because America needed, quote unquote, diversity. I mean, now America is fairly diverse. So why do they need those categories? Why not, sell these green cards not for diversity but for money? And in that sense, I commend President Trump for just being outright and honest about it. There's no forked tongue approach here. There's no diplomacy here. It's straight up, clarity.
Last word to you, Dov Zakheim. How do you see this panning out? We don't know the details of it yet, as all of us have talked about. But, caps, no caps, other than green cards, what is the kind of nitty-gritty that you're expecting when it is announced later?
First of all, I think that the one point that must be borne in mind is that if you have wealthy people coming in who are going to start businesses, they're going to hire people. And they're going to hire people who are going to generate revenue for the government, even at lower taxes, by the way. So it is a way of cutting into a massive deficit. I'll say that. I happen to think, for what it's worth, that there'll be some modification of EB-5. As I mentioned earlier, biotechnology, I'm on a biotechnology commission, so I'm aware of this. This is a huge area. AI is another one. Quantum is another one. These are areas where, for example, Indians are doing exceedingly well. They're at the cutting edge. We're not going to want to keep those kind of people out. And so you've heard a little bit from the attorneys about the games that are played with the current system. I suspect that what's going to happen is there'll be a revision of that system. There will still be a path to green cards, but the path will be for those who really bring something into the United States. So you'll have essentially 2 levels: the people with the money who can create jobs, and the people with the brains who can make the most for what the people with money need in order to create those jobs.
I think people with the money will take offense, Dov, if you'd call them people without the brains. But let's leave it there. I have paucity of time. I have to wrap it up here. Thank you to all of you gentlemen, Vibhuti Jha, Dov Zakheim and Kartikeya Tanna, for joining us on Global Mirror and sharing your thoughts with us. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap on this broadcast. News and updates will continue on Mirror Now. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Up next is Neha Koshi with Beyond the Headline.